Welcome to the Blogging and SEO Show. I'm Michaela, a stay-at-home mom of 3 who just happens to be in love with everything related to SEO, blogging, marketing, coffee, and shedding light into the many mystifying corners of search engine optimization and what that means for us service providers, small business owners, and even bloggers. We're ditching the do-it-all narrative surrounding SEO and blogging and just sitting down and crafting strategies that are sustainable but still get us those first page, long-lasting results. Now let's get cozy, grab your fave sweater and a cup of tea or coffee, and let's talk everything blogging and SEO. Hello, and welcome back to the Blogging and SEO Show. Every time I say that, I love it so much. I'm so glad I changed the title of my show. But today we are actually here with Lauren. I wanted to bring her on. She's actually a client of mine, and it was so interesting in the beginning when she reached out to me because she really put a name to the things that I was doing or implementing on accident, or well, with intention. But I had no idea why they worked or what they really were doing. But I was like, these things do stuff and it makes it easier. But anyways, Lauren, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Michaela. Thank you for having me. Hi, folks. I'm Lauren Dewey. I'm a CEO with Entrepreneur Academic and a learning specialist. So I help entrepreneurs and organizations scale their impact and income through creating transformational and high quality curriculum. So a lot of times that looks like online courses. A lot of times that can be group coaching programs or masterminds or memberships. But really, I work with folks crafting their expertise and their intellectual property and bringing it to life in an offer and a container that's outside of your own brain. So you're not just needing to stack one-on-one clients on one-on-one clients to feel like you're making a difference. So it's really an opportunity to scale with your expertise using appropriate adult learning theories and curriculum development theories and not just listening to so much of the noise that happens on social media.
Literally, I feel like we get so many, you got to do it this way, you have to do it this way.
100%.
And it's so overwhelming. And then you're like, which one is right? What the fudge do I do? So what is adult learning? You said that at the end.
Yeah, so adult learning is first and foremost the framework for how I build all curriculums and work with all entrepreneurs on their expertise. So adult learning is the concept of how we're taking in new information once, one, our prefrontal cortex is developed, and two, we're able to conceptualize and frame information and categorize it with our decades of life experience. And so when you're in elementary school, so often when we think about learning, we think of knowledge acquisition just for the sake of knowledge acquisition. We're learning new words and new countries and new colors and math equations and all of these different things. And adults are constantly filtering information based on what we already know and how the information that we're taking in our 20s, 30s, 40s fits with information that we learned in our teenage years and in our youth. And we're constantly asking ourselves if this information applies to us or if we believe in this information based off of our previous experiences. So when we put programs together, when we put offers together, we constantly have to be thinking about how is this going to be filtered and what is the context that we can present this information in. So we're not asking someone to just learn for the sake of learning, because adults, to be honest, adults don't, even when we say we're all lifelong learners, adults don't actually hear that much when it comes in terms of lifelong learning. Like, we want instant gratification, main character energy. Like, is this knowledge going to serve us or not? And if it's not, we're not going to remember it.
I feel like that's something that's forgotten so often, or not even known when people go into creating their digital products or their courses, or even their content, because that's how it implies into my stuff, because we are educating.
Totally.
With every blog post, every single blog post, we're educating in some way. And that's why, if you just blurb it all down, it's not very consumable.
Right? So many people tend to mistake educating for just telling people what to do or telling people the information that they want to get out into the world. They're going to present it the same way they learned it. But most people don't care about all of the background knowledge that we have as subject matter experts in order to get our points across. They just want to know if it applies to them or not.
Honestly, though, do you feel like that carries, I mean, I say it in blog content, but do you feel like it carries over to all content to some extent?
100%, 100%. And I think this is where we get very burnt out on consuming educational content, whether that's free content on social media or YouTube, or whether that's taking free masterclass after free masterclass, because we've all seen the same things. We've seen the people talk about themselves for 45 minutes. We've seen the context for like, this worked for me, but without providing the additional information for not just how this worked for me or how this is about my own life. Like so often when we talk about ourselves in the online space, which is what we do on social media, we're missing that application and implementation piece where someone can see your content and feel like they can actually internalize it and get up off the couch and take that out into the world. And it's just we just get so burnt out on listening to other people talk about themselves, which I realize I sound like I'm totally like shitting on the online environment. And then that's not what I'm trying to say at all. I'm just thinking if we can frame these pieces of content, whether that's free offers, social content, long form content, paid programs and services, if we can frame this with adult learning in mind, people are actually going to remember what you have to say.
And that's really so important. I feel like that, you say you're like shitting on the online space, but it's not.
I like don't want to.
It's not intentional. It's a might be guys, but you see it all the time, and it's a you centric, like the other person content centric. Like even I was talking to a sales coach the other day, and that's something she also said. She said we tend to bring everything. Like I love blogging, and I like to say that I love blogging in my content, but I'm also unintentionally turning every piece of content into, by the way, guys, I love something rather than you should love this too.
And there's a piece with that that's building trust and building rapport and building a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not saying like we would need to shut off our personalities with this piece, but if it is if it's not asking someone to apply it to their everyday life and to categorize that information with what they already know, like we're just not that memorable.
Felt out. But yes.
It's so and the other thing too is like this is really hard. I struggle with this a lot. I'm a personal brand. I ask for help with content 100%, but it's a skill set that needs to be practiced and rehearsed over time. It's not like all of a sudden we think about adult learning and we flip a switch and all of our educational programs are absolutely incredible. Like I've been doing this for 10 years. I have a master's in education and I'm still constantly thinking for how can I reframe this piece of content? It's a skill that takes time. And so often we think like, oh, I just like should be able to figure it out.
Isn't that what we say about everything? It's just, I should know this. This should be like
an expert just because I want to be.
Or I feel like that after I read an Instagram post, I'm like, oh, I feel like I could be an expert in this now. And then I go to implement and I'm like, whoops, let me take a step back real quick.
Totally. And I think that's just giving ourselves grace as entrepreneurs. Like it's something that we all go through, we all experience, and we just have to let ourselves go through that learning process.
I feel like there's also going back to what you said about the personalities and not ditching it, because we're personal brands. When we bring in learning, I feel like there's this huge misconception that immediately learning, all right, I'm going to do XYZ. These are the bullet points you need to know, and it feels really stiff and formal. Is that like the reality of it, or can you just kind of meld your personality into the courses you're creating, the curriculum, and how you present that information, or does that kind of distract it?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. I love that. With your personality, I think it's doing a couple things, because if we do just turn off our personality, then all of a sudden we look like the stuffy college professor at the front of the room that's like really, really monotone, and like no one cares about taking their course because they're really boring. No one wants to follow us on social media if we have no personality. And so I think there's a certain piece of our personal brand where it is that know, like, trust factor with sales. And then also as humans in an asynchronous online environment, so often when we're building programs, is we do want to feel like we're building social connection. And social connection is huge with emotional engagement with learning. And so it's not to say that we can't talk about ourselves, but telling people our stories isn't the only way to get information across. It's kind of how we get people to engage with us as brands and engage with our learning, because they know our story and they know what worked for us and these different pieces. but it's allowing your story to provide context for how your expertise in intellectual property is fitting in with someone else's lived experience. Because if we just talk about ourselves without any bridge building, that's where we lose people when it comes to learning. And so it's kind of knowing, how do I phrase this? It's almost knowing like how much or how little to talk about yourself and like what pieces of your personal brand. Annie Miller does a really great job of this. She has what's called a social media code of conduct. And it's kind of illustrating like how are we building a personal brand where we know this isn't our entire identity. Like our personal brand is the bridges that we're building to facilitate learning, but it's not exposing everything I do 24/7.
Yeah. It's not keeping you updated. I'm going to the bathroom.
Exactly. Like I will never forget seeing a coach brag about like responding to DMs in the bathroom. And I'm like, why would you ever put that on the internet? Like there's not a chance I would ever hire that person. Like there's still some things that are meant to be professional.
That's probably not what not what I'm going to be thinking when I look at, all I'm going to think is, are you sending this from the bathroom?
It's like still building a personal brand, but it's a personal brand. It's not just like, here's my entire lived experience for people to dissect.
Honestly, this is actually what me and Nicole were talking about yesterday in our podcast interview. Actually, that episode will go out in December, but me and Nicole from Groovy Social had a little interview yesterday, and we were talking about the balance between our, being vulnerable versus trauma dumping too. Just trauma dumping online. And I feel like that can really easily get into our content.
100%. So people can relate to you. They want your lived experience in their life. So they're going to categorize the things that you're trying to teach them into our own lived experience. If they're just like overwhelmed with your life story, you're not asking them to take in any new information.
What are other ways you can get people engaged rather than just putting your personality or personal stories into it?
I think a couple things. Great question. One is just asking them to be engaged. I think a lot of times in the online space, we sometimes tiptoe around the fact that we're trying to make sales. It's almost the same thing with online programming and online learning. I will ask people, like, I want you to take notes. I want you to remember this information. I want you to ask questions. So it's kind of asking for that engagement and saying, like, completing this assessment or completing this worksheet is good for you because we're showing them exactly why we're asking them to engage and how it's going to benefit them. Because if we just want to make the assumption that people are going to take notes or complete the worksheets or use the templates or whatever, we can't always assume that someone is going to do what like we think we would do or what we designed the thing to do. So I think part of that engagement is just asking for engagement and asking them to pay attention and asking them to participate. Of course, keeping our personality in there, as we just talked about. I think another key piece is catering to learning preferences. So often you'll see people talk about learning styles, and that's a very elementary, like K through 12, outdated way to think about learning, where we think about like auditory, kinesthetic, visual, any of these different learning styles. For folks listening, I'm doing air quotes for learning styles. But when we think about learning preferences, we do have to think about how adults prefer to take in information, not because they're going to like remember it one way or another, but again, we want to feel that main character energy. So it's offering captions, it's offering Google Doc worksheets. I always tell my clients and with my own courses that like, you can just listen to this like a podcast. Like, obviously I want you to go in and take notes, but you can just listen to this lesson like a podcast and then go in and take notes. So kind of being able to have a variety in how you're explaining information is super helpful. And then people can engage how they want to engage without making that like decision overwhelm.
That's a good idea. So do you recommend like when people go in and do their courses that they offer multiple ways, I guess, to consume it? Or
and it's not it doesn't have to feel as difficult as we think it is. So with the two things that I always have is captioned videos. I think oftentimes we want to be able to read information as opposed to like just listening to information, especially if we're pausing it and taking notes or whatever. So I always caption videos. And then I always offer some type of learning application support. So whether that's a Google Docs notebook with some prompts and some follow-up questions, Mad Lib style where it's fill in the blank, if it's like a template where you're doing a screen recording and you're walking them through a Google sheet or something on Show It, like just something applicable, basically something we can do with our hands while we're taking in information, because it's so easy to not pay attention if we haven't given a ask for the like, please apply this information.
Okay, so if we're going to content and like this, I would say more surface level education versus like a paid entry or even like a email entry, what are some adult learning concepts, I would say, or techniques that you would apply
for like social content?
Yeah, like for social content, blog content.
Yeah, I think the piece of with adult learning when it comes to social content and kind of that like top of funnel content is almost not shying away from redundancy. And you see this advice a lot in sales where people say like, oh, someone needs to see your program 7 times to make a sale. I have no idea if that's accurate or not. I'm not a sales coach, but I feel like you see that advice out there that people need to see your program or your service multiple times in order to make a purchasing decision. It's the same thing when it comes to learning. There's this theory called the curve of forgetting. And the more frequent we are exposed to new ideas, it's going to kind of stay in our short-term and our long-term memory with greater strength. So what I mean by that is instead of posting a 1-hour YouTube video once a week, or I should say once a month, thinking that we're going to get like a bunch of quality information out there, we want to be kind of peppering our knowledge that we're trying to get out in there across like YouTube, social media, blogs, emails. So I'm constantly talking about what curriculum development means for entrepreneurs, because someone might need to see 6 or 7 or 9 or 12 of my posts to realize they have a curriculum framework in their coaching service that they could turn into an online course. Someone might need to see content about blogging and SEO for realizing like, oh my gosh, I have a website. That means I have SEO and a blog opportunity. So we have to think about redundancy in terms of what are the different angles and what are the different ways we can talk about the same topic and the same area of expertise for someone somewhere to get filed in their brain for like, that's the piece I'm going to remember. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's a little rambly.
No, I totally get it. I think about that a lot because I always just kind of assume people know what SEO is and why blogging works because I'm in it every day and I'm like, I should repeat this more often.
Totally. And like, I think the same thing with adult learning and curriculum development, but the reality is that people are finding our pages all the time. People who already follow us might not be seeing our posts on Monday and only see them on Thursdays, like algorithm stuff. And so it's kind of like, don't be afraid of telling the same story multiple ways.
I do have one final question. Do you feel like adult learning or lack thereof of these concepts and techniques is why a lot of courses don't have like high completion rates, or even like digital products, people aren't as willing to leave reviews for most entrepreneurs?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that digital products are a little bit different because they can sometimes be lower ticket. Oftentimes they're like a PDF delivery. And so there's less learning and implementation and transformation that's going to happen with a product that's like under $50 potentially. But we all have been burned by terrible courses. And the fact is terrible courses are going to continue to happen because the concept and the narrative around online courses is so much around like passive income and never work again, which is like already such BS. And so I think the piece to remember is that online learning isn't going to go anywhere, whether or not we talk about it in the sense of online courses or group coaching programs or paid YouTube subscriptions. I don't even know if that's a thing. That's basically a course. But it's kind of like online learning isn't going to go anywhere because the fact of the matter is you have to scale beyond the hours that you have in your week for being able to just like do client work or get on Zoom meetings with clients. And so if we know that online education isn't going anywhere, we should, as an entire online industry, be striving to improve the quality of that work. So that way we're not just continually perpetuating the cycle of online courses or scams and money grabs and whatnot. Like online courses can be incredibly transformational But if you treat it like a money grab, it's not going to be your highest quality work.
It's going to be a money grab, and then people are going to see it as a money grab.
And then people take your course and then they talk on threads about how terrible courses are, and the cycle just like continues.
I feel like there's been a lot of openness about that lately, though, is a lot of people who did make courses as money grabs or in the beginning of an industry who are like, well, I see an opportunity here. Let me just whip this up real quick. It's definitely coming to light. I don't think anybody can hide it anymore behind like a big brand name or
100%. And this is why I offer course audits. If you already have a course, I go in and I audit it for you from a learning specialist perspective to get it from good to great. Because so often I feel like I talk to people who have courses who don't sell them or talk about them because they're like, I don't know if it's any good, or I'm kind of embarrassed. Like, I don't really want people in it. So I do offer course audits and I'll give you like a custom action plan to make your course a product that you feel like you can shop from the rooftops.
Writing content from you has so just a little throwback. I wanted to create a course. I bought your checklist and everything, and I was going through and I was like, all right, I've got my like 4 months. I'm ready. I'm going to start planning it out. And then life happened. I don't know. I think, you've known. I went through 2 hurricanes in the past 4 months. My car is actually still in the shop from this latest one. It's been in there for a month now, 5 weeks actually, because it went in the first week of October. And it's just, I'm just SOL for that. Like the front bumper apparently is out of stock.
Oh my God.
So it's just
happy hurricane season,
right? We lost power last night because of the hurricane. I think I'm going to say it's in the wrong place, of course, but it's like the Gulf Coast or something like that. And it's sending like the rain bits from the edges. And it's like, you're going to have an increased rain flow. And of course, I'm just living in a spot that gets a lot of rain every time that happens.
For folks listening, I'm in Western Canada, so I deal with like mid-bears and minus 35. But like a hurricane is like my thing of nightmares. Like I wouldn't even make it there. Like not a chance.
I can't even go to North Carolina and my grandparents live in North Carolina. It's just like a few degrees cooler, and I'm like bundled, and they're like, "Are you okay?" My husband's wearing a t-shirt and shorts, and I'm like wearing a parka, and I'm like, I gotta go inside. I want to go home. Like this is too cold for me. And they have bears there too. I bet it's not nearly as bad, but they have to lock all the trash cans to yeah. But back to the course thing, because I'm a tangent. We were talking about a tangent queen over here. I went through it and I was like, you know what? First of all, I had too much self-doubt around it. I was like, I cannot be doing this by myself when I'm like managing everything else. And then 2, I was like, if I'm going to make something, I want to make it right the first go round. So I pushed pause and I was like, and I'm going to write Lauren on my to shop from next list for next year. So that I can get this done.
Perfect. I love that. And it is like, there's a Facebook ad that like haunts me in my sleep where it's like, create your course in a weekend. And it's like, yeah, if you want to hate it and like not sleep.
Like what's funny is I've seen that ad. And I think the latest one has been create a course in a week.
Oh, it drives me nuts. Like, I think that's something that we all need to recognize too as an industry, that quality works take time. And that is 100% totally a million times fine. It's kind of the like, we can't just flip a switch and expect to like know everything. Instantly. Like quality work should take time. Like that's fine.
That's what I say about, right? That's what I say about blog posts too. When I'm like, the average person spends 4 hours on a blog post, on like an average blog post between research, writing, optimizing, and that's not even like including some of the other research for the keywords. That's just like finding resources to back up what they're saying or linking stuff, because it all takes time.
I believe it, but can't relate because I have a great blog writer.
But that's why I say hire Michaela. Yeah, I'm gonna save you 4 hours per blog post at least.
Yeah,
imagine what you could do with 4 hours.
Yeah,
but see, that's how I felt about the course creation. I was like, I'm going to spend the entirety of these 4 months just melting, and I'm not going to have anything done because I need guidance for it. It's not.
Well, and really the bread and butter of what we do at Entrepreneur Academic is done for you course creation, because it's exactly that. It's yes, it's about the time, is helping people like, I'll take that off your plate so you get the time back. but it's also more so about the analysis paralysis and the overthinking and the overwhelm for like, what do I put in my course? What do I not put in my course? Any of these things, like, let us take that from you. Let us be your subject matter researchers. We'll build your whole curriculum copy. We'll build all of your on-brand slide decks with speaking notes. Like, the only thing you're going to have to do is record.
See, that just sounds like sold.
Right? It's a very popular service for a reason, because so often people are like, thank God I've been thinking about this for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
Hasn't made it out of my brain.
It's on everybody. I would say on most entrepreneurs in the online space are like, I need to have some digital product, because you're right. You can only take so many one-on-one clients, and that's why people outsource blogs. That's why people look for Instagram strategies, because we don't have unlimited time, and most of our goal is not, man, I want a 12-person team that I have to manage virtually. It's okay, what can I do? And maybe I'll have a VA and a marketer or a contractor here or there, but I don't want to hire 12 people. I don't want to work with 12 people and being responsible for 12 people every week.
Totally. Well, and I feel like the people too that we work with at Entrepreneur Academic, they really care about their clients, and we almost need to give them a bit of a permission slip for like, it's okay to want to make more money while you still work with your clients. Like, you can prioritize your one-on-one clients. You can raise your prices for one-on-one clients, because you'll focus on one-on-one clients, and your course is just going to help that like expansion of personal freedoms and freedom of choice for you to do that. It's not about replacing one-on-one clients with your course or anything like that.
It's just we're adding a resource for people who can't afford to work with us one-on-one. We don't have time to work on one-on-one. Or my favorite that I've seen from writing your content has been when you recommend putting it into their one-on-one work. Like,
yes,
that seems to be my fave.
Love when, like, if I'm a one-on-one client, or when my clients have one-on-one clients, and then you give your one-on-one clients, God, how often can I say that in one sentence? When you give your one-on-one clients access to your intellectual property and your resources and your expertise, and you're able to say over Voxer, like, hey, go watch this module, and then we'll talk about implementation on the call. Like, think about how much further your clients can get in a shorter amount of time when they have you on Voxer and on calls, and they have like all of this intellectual property for you that they can go in and get the answer to their question, and then talk about their specific circumstance on a coaching call with you. Like, it's the best.
And honestly, I mean, like, even when you're not in working one-on-one, but you have the resources to pull from, I'm in a challenge. It may be over by the time this episode airs, or I may be like towards the end of it. I don't know. Days. That happens. Time. If you asked me in the morning, I couldn't tell you what day this was. So if that tells you anything about my day-to-day week management. It doesn't help that I have a 5-year-old who also tells me the wrong day of the week. But it's okay. We're getting there. No?
Yeah.
It's normally, are we doing this on this day, Mom? Do you mean on this day? I'm like, well, that doesn't help me. But yeah, so in the challenge, it's Sarah from Between Lines, her Get More Clients challenge. And I've actually really enjoyed it. It puts you out of the box and makes you try something new. But one of the things I had a question for her, and I paid, it was like a low ticket offer. I think it was $50 to have one-on-one extra support with her. And I'm really happy I did. But because she has her resources, she has her curriculum built out and has her course and all that good stuff. And she literally, I had a question, and so she just pulled it. She pulled the video and sent it to me. She's like, this is what you need to watch. And of course, I felt so much better. Like, I'm not in a place to hire her as a mentor, but as someone that she could potentially mentor in the future, as a potential client in the future, that little bit of extra information that she just willingly shared with me, even though I'm in like probably one of her lowest ticket offers at the moment, felt really good.
Totally. And the fact that she had that.
Yeah, she just had it at the ready.
Yeah. And it's not about like dismissing clients or any of these pieces. It's about, my monitor's flicking on and off. It's not about like dismissing clients. It's saying like, hey, let's go deeper, further, faster. Like, let's make more progress here because I have this intellectual property already outside of my brain.
Oh yeah.
That's really all it's about.
Also, my last tidbit, I swear, because I think I said this was the last thing earlier, but like I said, we're
I never shut up.
I always invite yappers to the show. I feel like it makes it yapper here, yapper there. We're here forever. But we should start a club for yappers, and we can just all talk forever.
I would love that.
But when you have all of this curriculum and you have a course and you built it out, whether it's for your one-on-one or for yourself, you're not only giving, if you hire content creators, or if you just like writers or repurposers, or however you want to go about it, you have all of this content that you can pull from. Like, you don't have to, it's not, okay, now it's my course. Now I've got this here. Now I've got this product there. Like, even when I go in and write blog content, I reference my clients' products all the time, their masterclasses, everything. So it just gives you more to work with.
Yourself on calls all the time or in content or things all the time if you can just like record it and send it one.
Exactly.
Like I've had clients use curriculum development before for like client onboarding. And we built like part of their whole onboarding structure is curriculum development because you're trying to teach them certain things like rescheduling calls or where to access client information and things like that.
It's actually one of the things that I've considered implementing for 2025 is sending like an introduction packet, because I feel like SEO is hard to explain on exactly what it does. And then even like blogging, and then in like the little packet, you'll also have ways to improve your SEO and more ways to use your blogs. Because that's another thing. I feel like people are like, it's chilling there. It's going to just continue to live. And it does really well. But you can also repurpose your blogs. You can also drop them in your email newsletter. You can add them to your Instagram stories. There's so much you can do. And I feel like I do get questions about it a lot too. Like, well, what do I do with them now?
These things exist in a silo. When we think about like curriculum development and sales and SEO and onboarding, like all of these are skill sets that are improving another.
Mm-hmm. Because you can take so many of these. If you sit down and learn adult learning and actually focus on it, you can bring so much into your content. And when you have people engaged in your content, you have people more willing to buy. And then when they enjoy what they buy, they're more willing to recommend it. And then you just have a system of referrals. And hey, I'm not gonna say no to that.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So to end us off, do you have an actionable tip for everyone? Something that they could do like today? Like when they log off, they could be like, all right, log off. They're not logging off anything. When they exit out or stop this episode, something they could do.
Something they can do. Okay. I am going to give two pieces of advice because one is a shameless plug, but I do have a free masterclass that asks people to work through 3 questions for how do I take my coaching framework, my done for you framework, my one-on-one framework into a scalable offer. So it's asking you to reflect on your expertise. The entire video is only 45 minutes. It's awesome. I'm totally biased. You can find it at entrepreneuracademic.com or at laurendewey.co on Instagram. But also, if you don't want to take a workshop, if you hate masterclasses, any of these different pieces, I would just ask that you audit your own offers and make sure that you're addressing applicable action items, that you're asking someone to move into a space of action. So often with our educational content, we get into like knowledge acquisition and everything we've ever learned, and we want to provide context and background information and this and that. And it's like, we get really nerdy on our own areas of expertise. But if I can ask you to have one takeaway from this podcast, is I want you to look at your own offers and ask yourself, what action items am I asking people to complete? What action items am I providing context on for them to stand up and create change like in the next 24 hours, even if that's a really, really small action step? I think that's a piece that we really often forget when we're building educational content.
Oh, I love it. And yes, it applies to everything, by the way.
Yeah. And it's not saying that like one piece of educational content, whether that's a blog or a course or whatever, it's going to like massively overhaul, change someone's lives, but they should be able to do something different in a very short time frame from a very short educational offer.
Yes, I love it. All right. So that is the end of today's episode. I'm sad to see you go. I've been having a lot of fun with these interviews. For a person who said, I'm not going to do a lot of interviews on my show. And then I bring on, you got to bring on everybody, I love it. But as always, all the links will be down in the show notes. You can find Lauren at entrepreneuracademic.com. That's also where you can find her masterclass, as she said. And like I also said, down in the show notes, as always. And it's also on the blog if you'd like to give this a read through. Or check out the transcript because you felt like you missed something. Everything is there for you. But that is all for today. Until next week. Bye.
Thank you.
As always, I hope you were able to learn at least one new thing today and how you can apply it to your own business or blog. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Blogging and SEO Show. Don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. I promise it's a goodie. And check the show notes for everything we talked about today. And come connect with me on Instagram at comamama.co. If you have any questions or thoughts you want to share, DM me. Let's chat. Until next time, talk soon.